Welcome to The Know, I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Turney.
Microsoft's gaming wing, Microsoft Studios, has announced some major changes today, resulting in the closure of Lionhead Studios.
The announcement came via a blog post today on Xbox.com by General Manager of Microsoft Studios Europe, Hanno Lemke. The post announced not only the closure of Lionhead Studios, but also Press Play, the developers of Max: The Curse of Brotherhood and Kalimba.
Aww. In the post, Lemke wrote, "These have been tough decisions, and we have not made them lightly, nor are they a reflection on these development teams. We are incredibly fortunate to have the talent, creativity, and commitment of the people at these studios."
He went on to say, "I speak for all of Xbox when I say that despite this news, we remain committed to the development communities in the UK and Europe, and Xbox will continue to support new IP and originality in the games we offer on our platforms."
Considering how much of a flagship Lionhead has been for Microsoft in the last couple of generations, Microsoft shutting them down comes as, well, more than a little bit of a surprise. Their well-known but often contentious Fable series certainly doesn't have the clout that it used to, I guess.
Yeah, this closure also means the cancellation of Fable Legends, the free-to-play co-op adventure RPG, which has, at least from the outsider perspective, had some troubled development. The game was originally slated to come out back in 2015, but was light on details for a crazy long time until very late last year.
Lionhead at one point admitted they did a pretty bad job explaining what the hell the game even was. The game is currently in closed beta, although now I guess it's just in closed.
Ouch. It'll never be more than a Fable or Legend. Too soon, Eddy.
Jokes.
Yeah, as for Press Play, their current game, Project Knoxville, was also canceled. Project Knoxville was a third-person survival multiplayer title where players work together and against one another to escape an arena filled with enemies.
The whole thing was very early in development, and Press Play even let fans vote on it against some other concepts to decide if the game should be produced. It looked like it had an interactive game show component to it as well, much like the popular modes we've seen on games like Ark Survival Evolved.
Now, this announcement from Microsoft comes right after some rough times over the last few weeks and doesn't mark the only trouble by studios partnering with the company. Back in February, Motiga, developers of the upcoming Xbox One MOBA Gigantic, announced a substantial round of layoffs.
And of course, if you've been following The Know, you're mega informed about what happened with Microsoft last week, right?
Indeed, a quick recap for the TLDR crowd. Gamers were upset about Quantum Break streaming cutscenes and being Windows 10 only. Rise of the Tomb Raider's PC version doesn't really act like a PC game. Phil Spencer made some comments about Xbox turning into an upgradable PC. And finally, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney completely trashed the Universal Windows platform and called it the most aggressive move Microsoft has ever made.
Nice summary. Someone at Microsoft needs to check to make sure they haven't recently disturbed an Indian burial ground or something. That's a very bad week.
Yes, but there's probably a different explanation for all of these headaches, besides Indian burial grounds, of course. Get your tinfoil hats on, kids, because we're about to dive into conspiracy theories, y'all.
Now, the main thread of last week's controversies for Microsoft were all related to the same thing, the Universal Windows platform.
Basically, it's Microsoft's ubiquitous platform that'll allow developers to build a single application that works across any Windows-enabled device. And according to Tim Sweeney, is Microsoft's attempt at a PC gaming monopoly.
Now, we've got an anonymous source close to the situation, and according to them, UWP and crossplay may be part of the reason some of these studios are running into so many problems as well.
Guys, we journalize.
Now, to be clear, this is a single source, so it's not corroborated at this time. However, it does give us some additional insight into what's happening backstage with this whole thing.
And while they're close to the situation, the source has also passed on details they can't confirm personally, so some of this might be conjecture, but it's more educated conjecture than most of us get when we're outside of the situation.
Expectations set? Cool.
All right, according to our source, development for UWP was a significant factor to some of the setbacks encountered on a number of crossplay titles for Windows and Xbox, which would include both Fable Legends and Gigantic. Now, from what we understand, there may have been development milestones built around the integration of UWP for some of those studios.
Now, the way these milestones typically work in game development is that the next round of funding isn't delivered until the milestone is met. So in this case, if a studio had problems integrating UWP, it could have affected their payment.
Which seems to have been the case here. So if you want to get paid, now you're spending critical development time that lasts 6 to 9 months heading up to the release that's usually focused on polishing and balancing, trying to work on non-gaming features as opposed to finishing up your games.
Now, the problem with UWP integration is that its functions basically permeate every area of the game's code. Netcode, matchmaking, partying, data, especially the partying, it's all fully integrated on a different level than, say, a game that can be packaged up and sold on Steam or GOG or whatever you want.
Really, you need 2 builds of your game if you're a developer. One that works with UWP and can be sold on the Windows 10 store, and one that works with basically every other platform. In a perfect world, you'd have a UWP build of your game that you could distribute in other places besides the Windows Store, but that's exactly what Microsoft is not allowing at this time.
So if you're someone partnering with Microsoft to release a game for UWP, you're diverting crucial resources to make the game Windows Store ready, which also keeps you from selling it elsewhere. It's not exactly a great spot to be in, especially if you're a smaller studio.
For Microsoft, this means that some studios without enough money to throw at development will have to make a tough choice about where their games are being distributed, because creating 2 entirely separate builds of the same game isn't really easy if you're not AAA.
It's not even easy if you are AAA.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that UWP is the only reason these games fell onto hard times, but according to our source, it was definitely one of the headlines there. Lionhead in particular has a much longer history with Microsoft, so there could be a bunch of other factors that led to the closure of the studios, all kinds of baggage.
But it certainly is interesting that the timing happened just now, just a few days after all this negative press about UWP. Fable Legends was set for an open beta really any day now, with a launch date of spring 2016. And according to our source, in early February, they were still planning on selling Founders Packs as early as last week.
Which means that Fable Legends was actually really close to some kind of wider release. So it's odd that they would shut everything down so late in the game.
It could just be that the game wasn't very good. I mean, that might actually be the real reason, as much as fun as it is to, theorize conspiratorially.
Now, we're unlikely to hear a lot of details from Microsoft one way or the other, so we'll just have to wait and see if they pull back on UWP or roll full steam ahead. But we'll definitely keep an eye on the story and see how it develops.
So what do you guys think of the studio shutdowns and game cancellations? Let us know in the comments down below.
And like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll keep you in the know.
My favorite part of this is we started, you were like, welcome to the know, and I thought we were waiting on someone to do prompter, so I'm just like this. I was like looking off in the distance, and like my face is like, and then you're like, welcome to the know, and I'm like, welcome to the know, I'm Turney. So have fun watching that back on the edit.